Hey guys, follow sheet here and reading another fanfiction. This one my friend sent me, and I don't know what it is. I know it's Kirby. It says Kirby no.
I can't believe this!
Oh great, here's another. Hello again, weirdos. It's me again, the almighty Mr. Epic. I doubt that, but sorry for not updating for like freaking months. Oh man, I don't even want to read the description. But anyways, he had woken up in a room, a very dimly lit room. It must be an insane asylum, but it didn't even seem all that suspicious. He barely had enough space to simply be lying there on the floor, unmoving. The puffball Kirby didn't really have much strength to pick himself up. Oh, okay, so Kirby's so weak he can't pick himself up. Alright, yeah, okay. Though his entire being ached with pain, with parts of his midsection stringing as though someone had cut through him in a vicious encounter. Jesus Christ. It didn't take a genius to figure out that something very wrong was going on. But what could Kirby do about it now? In this state of total complete weakness, consciously, the Puff wanted to get up and dash away and find his path back home, and yet his body's strength didn't dare to budge. But why? Why he's strained? What do you mean? Like he's tied up? I don't know. A memory flashed before the young Star Warrior's eyes. It was brief. It was vague, and yet it conveyed enough information to give a general idea for what had happened to him. He was running away from a crowd of people. Why? Carrying pitchforks and knives, shouting something the poor pink being couldn't for the life of him understand. Why? They seemed to be chasing him out of a town of some sort. Maybe Cappy Town? Why would they be chasing him out of there? It's because marx. But had he done something wrong? He couldn't tell. I didn't at all resemble the Cappy Town he knew, but who knows? Certainly not him. Slowly but surely, his senses have started to return following this unknown period of unconsciousness. First, his touch. He could feel the floor. He was laying atop of it as it was hardwood and hadn't seemed to have been vacuumed in a long time since it was very dusty. He sneezed after having breathed some in. Next was his hearing. In the background, there was a constant faint buzzing noise, someone getting a haircut, as if it were ventilating the room he was in. The air was pretty cold, whatever this was, and his body was starting to freeze as a result. Kirby soon recognized that if he had only just now started growing cold, then it must mean that either he had only just recently arrived or someone else had turned on the cooler just before he woke up. Great, he had been kidnapped. Not to worry though. Kirby was, for better or worse, familiar with kidnappings. He could easily escape as soon as he regained his strength. So, you're trapped here too? The voice sent a chill down Kirby's spine. Kirby doesn't have a spine, but it was eerily familiar. Yet, he couldn't quite recognize who it was. Ah, well, at least he had company in the meantime. What did the voice mean by, oh, his right foot was bound with rope to the wall? Not good. Okay. No use trying to leave. Trust me, Kirby, I tried. How did he know his name, Poyo? I don't know, man. Ah, well, wait, what are you supposed to do? The voice interrupted. Footsteps shrieking the floor beneath him. It isn't like one is allowed to. A shape emerge from the darkness or can escape from death. Can they, Kirby? The puffball gasped in shock. He whimpered, trying to find the words to describe or refute what he was seeing. Why couldn't he find the right words to say? Because Kirby can't talk. Oh, I know what you're going to say. The shape leaned further, tilting its head and revealing itself for a purple menace that it was Marx! Oh, the pedophile, he's back, yes! Oh man, first freaking molesting Kirby, he's probably going out for round 2 now. That's why he trapped him and kidnapped him, but he must have escaped prison, but he gave his best Kirby mockery as he could. Aren't you supposed to be dead, Poyo? He took a deep breath before resuming with his normal voice. Oh, wouldn't you love to know, Kirby? I bet you really would love to know. Okay. He had been kidnapped by Marx. Kidnapped by Marx. Yes, you said this already. I don't know why you're repeating yourself. Just like I do every day. The same Marx that had encouraged him to get a wish from the mighty Nova so he could selfishly take over Popstar. But don't worry, he's good now and he's in Star Allies and people ship him with Kirby because, you know, these fangirls are insane. And now he was back, ready to torture him. His vengeance, wasn't he? Kirby shrieked in agony, scurrying away from one of his great foes as quickly as possible, only resulting in him running into the wall where he was attached to. What? I mean, can't Kirby just like duck? Like, don't you know how he like ducks and like he just turns into like a squish? Why can't he just do that? You know, he just escapes easily. But Marx, rather than chuckle over the pink puff's rash and frankly stupid escape attempt, was genuinely confused. Kirby, I don't have hands, remember? Besides, I'm trapped here. I'm trapped in here too. What? Oh, he's in jail then. Stay away, Poyo, Kirby yelped. Kirby can't talk, but turning to face the jester. Mark's bad. Mark's really, really bad, Poyo. That's true. I mean, if we read the last fanfiction, it's very true, but thanks for the news flash. He frowned. Poyo, no. You stay away from me. Relax, it's not like I can hurt you, Marx responded, though now thoroughly fed up with his fellow captive's attitude. Besides, I need your help, and you're certainly going to need mine. Hold on a second. How is Kirby tied up, but Marx isn't? They're both in prison, and Marx isn't tied up for some reason. But Kirby decided to settle down just slightly. He wasn't going to let his friend, this fiend, manipulate him again. Having now regained some of his energy from his panic Marx had instilled within him not too long ago, he sat himself down with a little issue. Marx had sat in front of him. I thought Kirby was tied up, but deciding now to wear his typical devilish smile. Let's make a deal, shall we, Kirby? Said the clown. I thought he was a jester. About what? Asked Kirby, not laying his guard down, even though Kirby still can't talk, but these people keep calling him talking. That makes sense. I hate you, and you hate me. I get that, Marx explained. But whoever placed us in here seems to be wanting us to cooperate to escape. You see, he turned toward a tipped-over nightstand across the room. There was a key on that table. That opens that door. Okay. Key now faces a wooden door with a lock on it, with a window covered in iron bars near its top. The lock's too high for either of us to reach it, and he chuckled. Well, I don't have hands, so yeah. You want me to put the key in the door? Kirby's speaking skills were far from perfect, but sufficiently enough in this context to both communicate and understand Marx's request. Please, Kirby, please, Marx stressed that as last please very hard, stretching out the word as long as he could. Kirby grumbled, trying to think of an alternatives, but soon recognized that he had other options available to him. He begrudgingly accepted Marx's request. But that was it? one favor. Once they escape this strange place, they would become bitter rivals once more, or as bitter as a devil. No, wrong character. As bitter as a jester bouncing around on his favorite ball, and a puffball who bided his time sleeping beneath trees, playing around with some kids, and slaying demon beasts would call a rivalry. Yep. He nodded in agreement. Excellent. Now, let me see what I can do here. Marx walked over to Kirby's rear to investigate the rope. Wait, whoa, hold on. His rear? I don't think Kirby has a rear, but the rope that bound him. Now, what to do about this? He stomped on the knot very hard. The sudden movement of the rope down Kirby's foot made him squeak in pain. Just move forward, Marx encouraged him. Whoever tied this thing did a terrible job keeping this thing tight. Okay, man. Kirby followed, and lo and behold, the knot slowly but surely undid itself. Once he started walking away from Marx and the back wall. Once free, however, he dashed towards the key, snatched it, and booked for the door. Kirby, wait! Marx yelled. Kirby rushed to get the key in the keyhole, jumping up, trying to try and reach it, just barely missing on most occasions. After a bit of panic trial and error, he managed to stick the key in the lock and unlatch the door. He reached the other side just as an enraged Marx made a mad dash towards Kirby's position. The puffball swiftly slammed the door behind him and held it shut. And the purple jester, you just call him a grape and say, I get he's purple, but like, he's a goddamn grape. Call him by what he is. He collided with the door. A loud thud was heard. The force of the impact was so great that Kirby nearly fell over trying to hold the door in place. He turned around, locating the lock on the side of the door. Wait, no, it says on his side of the door. He jumped up again to reach it. When Marx, in his strained, almost desperate plea, called out to him, "Kirby, please," he softly moaned. But by then, it was too late. The door had been locked, and Kirby now he found himself at the end of a long stone hallway. He was exhausted from the sheer speed of what had just occurred, but it was well worth it in Kirby's eyes. He had stopped the sadistic Marx out from being able to roam freely in dreamland. Now, at long last, came the matter of getting out of here. Before the puffball could continue, he heard something. Someone crying to themselves. It was Marx. But why? Had he not learned from his previous mistakes? Nobody could trust him. Best to leave him here. But yet, there was a tingling feeling inside, a feeling of immense guilt. What was going on? Kirby thought to himself. He listened to Marx crying, a few words occasionally choking their way out, as Marx was choking himself with his non-existent hands. "Kirby, please don't leave me here. I don't want to die alone, Kirby. Why? Why would you leave me here to die, Kirby? Weren't we friends, Kirby?" The last one froze the puffball in his tracks. I don't know why I said it like that, but he had been so weak upon his awakening here that when Marx had surprised him earlier, he had only remembered him from his instincts. His mind erupted with memories, causing Kirby to tremble in their wake, because Kirby's in there now. The two had met after Kirby had first dethroned Nightmare and his Nightmare Enterprise Corporation. Actually, it was called the New Enterprise and Merit Corporation, but it had always rendered in his mind as Nightmare, as that was who truly controlled said company. Kirby didn't initially know why his train of thought brought up that random, irrelevant piece of information when he remembered that it was Marx that had told him that. Jeez. But when they first met, Marx was like a companion Kirby never had sure. He had his mentor, oh my lord, I cannot read. Mentor and fellow Star Warrior, the mysterious Meta Knight, as well as the cabinet minister's children, Tiffany, Tiff, Fumu, Ibram, the more caring older daughter, and Theodore, Tough, Bun, Urban. I think these are the anime characters. I don't know much about the anime, but the more were, oh my, that's a big word. Whereas Rapscallius, yet charming younger brother, but Marx was vastly unlike any of them, and their friendship more meaningful. Oh no, whoops. Meaningful, especially as time went on, even though Marx wasn't even in the anime, but in particular, once the children had begun to grow up, their bonds was somewhat unmatchable. They never grew up. What are you talking about? They're still little children now. He remembered the times that they sat out together, gazing at the stars, telling each other about their dreams, traveling through all dreamland. And then there was the sun and moon incident that didn't even happen in the anime. Yeah, I said I didn't know much about it, but I know a little bit of it. Where all good things came to an end. All at once. Their unbreakable friendship was snipped to pieces when Marx, his selfish desires warped beyond recognition by Nova, wished to rule all of Planet Popstar. Kirby was forced to clean up the mess, culminating in a final battle. Climactic, I'm stupid, gosh, where he slew the monster his friend had become. He remembered the horrific taunting, screeches, and disfigurements on his face. Yet, when Kirby at last thrust his sword upon his former friend's darkened heart, he could hear the faint whisper, shish. Gosh dang, English is my first language now. Of his friend's voice, his real voice, begged for forgiveness. I don't think that was a scary, scary scream. Beg for salvation from this corruption of his soul and mind. And Kirby, the renowned hero of Dreamland, just turned his back on that faint whisper, disregarding it as just that. It sobbed. Jesus. Very, very long story. But at least it's not, I guess it's alright so far right now, I guess, but he would barely move on from that point in his life. The experience had traumatized the young Puff more so than the battles against NME, or NMEC technically, ever could have hoped. He had stayed alone in his hut for days on end, mourning his best friend, not for his friendship, but for his betrayal. He ultimately told himself it was for the better to just let it all go in the end. Yet no friend could ever match Marx. Like, freaking Marx, yeah. No, I don't know. Never again. At least Dreamland could rest safe without worrying about Triumph ruling over it. These are big words, but the nightmares came next. Marx, even in death's supposed death, no, he's alive. A affected the fragile Kirby. Not even the might of the Fountain of Dreams could rid Kirby of the onslaught of terror that cursed the boys' nights where the purple Joker had appeared. But even this too soon fell numb to Kirby. I thought he was gonna save Marx. He's just like sitting over here, just like thinking about all this for like 3 hours straight. While Marx is just sitting there, probably like sobbing. But then he remembered their latest crossing of paths and their latest adventure together. Kirby didn't entirely trust Marx during the whole endeavor, but it seemed as if some of the old flames of friendship had at last been rekindled. These are actual big words, man. Rekindled and reconciled to an extent. This book's not my age, man. I can't even read these words, man. I think I have to end the video. Oh lord. Anyways, Marx didn't entirely know or how or why he had survived either, but Kirby, ever famed for his forgiving nature, was willing to allow Marx this second opportunity, and Marx truly was willing to give it his all this time around. It was just like no better than the old days. He actually chosen to go on the adventure with him. If one thing had changed, it was that Marx was far more confident in himself than he had been prior. At one point, he and Marx were looking over the cliffside during the sunset. He remembered his face turning hot red when he leaned in closer to Marx's side. It was beautiful. It seemed at long last, after all this pain. Kirby? The jester sniffed. Are you okay? Kirby hadn't realized that he himself had been crying. He hadn't realized that he himself had been sobbing softly into his paws. Kirby didn't have paws. What are you talking about? He had dreamed for so long for Marx to come back to him, for them to be friends again. At long last, after much pain and hardship, that dream was coming true. So this is a fan fiction or like a almost wholesome story? Kinda confused, but anyways. And here he was, actively destroying his own dreams right in front of him, actively giving in to his nightmares of the devilish Marx that had haunted him for so long. What had he done? He collapsed to the ground, sulking in a pool of all his own tears. I already said I was sorry, Kirby, Marx murmured on the other side. What else must I say to convince you? Kirby remained motionless. He didn't want to move, not anymore. Do I have to do something? Marx pleaded. Must I do something to convince you? Marx, he barely spoke. He couldn't speak. The raw emotion had overtaken him. Do I have to die again to appease you? Marx, what are you saying? I'll sit here, then. Marx, no. I'll sit here and rot here. And I'll die right here for you and only you, Kirby. Marx, don't leave. The crying across the door stopped. A sense of determination erupted within Kirby's being. He wasn't going to let this happen. Not again. He stood himself up, jumped as high as he could, unlocked the door, and swung it open. He rushed inside to find Marx had already slumped up against the door's frame. Marx, he mumbled. No response. It was too late, wasn't it? Tears returned, more numerous than ever. He would have begged for Nova to resurrect his friend, but he already knew what Nova had done to Marx, and what he subsequently did to Nova, and so he begged to his deathly friend instead. Marx, he sobbed. "Come back." No response. "Please, Marx, please." Kirby approached the unmoving corpse. "Don't leave me again." Wait, it just dies? Okay. Oh, okay. No response. "Marx," he whispered again, a look of utter despair on his face. No, he's not dead. He's just very depressed right now. There was no response. Kirby covered his eyes in sadness and shame. He had done it again. He had killed Marx again. He had murdered Marx again. He had murdered Marx. Okay, I see that you like said that like 3 times, but he had murdered Marx again in cold blood. He has failed. He had failed to save his friend. "I forgive you, Marx." It was the last thing Pink Buffalo would say, the last thing he could say, for the sweet release of the cold came over him. And he again landed face first on the hardwood floor. After all that he had been through, he at last wanted it all to end right here where the murder would, in a twist of fate. Okay, geez, Kirby, a bit edgy there, but realized the pain that had caused an end themselves. Now would be a great time to die. "That's all I want to hear," Kirby gasped. He looked up towards Marx. Marx groaned uncomfortably, his large soft eyes slowly opening, his body shifting itself. Wait, hold on. Kirby said he wants to die, and then Marx just came back from the grave. Okay, Marx, you do you. I guess you love death so much, but it was nothing more than a faint murmur, barely audible at all, just like my videos, but yet Kirby had heard it. He has good hearing, and his heart melted for the 3rd time as he rushed to embrace his armless friend. So you just have to mention he's armless, but anyways, when pulled into this hug, Marx was instantly confused, but when Kirby's attempt to cry yielded no tears, the rest having already been used, the jester saw it best to pat his friend on his back, but he has no arms, but to ease the emotional distress. Neither of them had the slightest clue what they were doing here, who had brought them here, where they were exactly, or why they were even here. But at least they wanted something for each other's sake, for each other's hearts, and maybe even for everyone else's too. Okay, and that, at the very least, was a start. And now we have to go to chapter 2. Holding back for so long, it should have been annoying to Marx that in the course of several hours, neither of them had made a single inch of progress in getting out of wherever they were. I told you it took an hour for Kirby to have all those flashbacks, but it didn't help but that their potential means of escape were literal right there in front of them, wide open. But he didn't mind in the slightest. He had other things that he preferred dealing with. Kirby had fallen asleep, clearly exhausted from all that happened earlier. I'm silly. I can't read. That's why I keep stumbling up on my own readings. It looked as though the pink puffball was on the verge of no. Already was crying his heart out. It was rest that the 2 friends most certainly deserved. Alright. There was something mesmerizing about the way Kirby slept, the way he breathed in and out, inflating and deflating his soft balloon-esque body. He looked so peaceful, so cute. Then again, he always looked cute regardless of the situation. I mean, you are right about that, but something just seemed off. Kirby, as a whole, had been acting off for the past couple of weeks. Wait, they've been there for weeks? Hold on. I thought they escaped the room and stuff. And that's why Kirby locked the door where Marx is at, and then he was crying and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna save you now." And I thought they were in a hallway. Would they just been sitting in the same room for hours now, or weeks? Gee, I mean, he couldn't point his. Never mind. He didn't know what had happened, but Kirby, as of late, had been starting to grow a bit over emotional. Gravitated, whoopsies, a lot less, well, Kirby-ish. Allegedly, there had been several confrontations that had gone on in Cappy Town, but that wasn't much to go off of. Cappies were very much gullible to anything they were told. So, confronting the Star Warrior for something he didn't do was something not too out of the ordinary. Had he finally snapped at this point? Only Kirby knew, and he was asleep on the Purple Jester's lap. Wait, hold on. Marx doesn't have a lap. He has just 2 feet, 2 bread shoes. He doesn't have no lap. He's a ball. Anyways, the panic occurred in the puffball's eyes were nothing like Marx had ever seen be emoted from his friend. Had he scared him? Was he still scared of him? What had caused him to forget about everything so quickly yet remember in a moment of agony and desperation? Hasn't he demonstrated that he's back to being the good, faithful Marx that Kirby had always known? It was moments like this where Marx cursed his lack of any hands, or hand-like equivalents like the stubs Kirby had, because his brain was really starting to hurt trying to piece together everything. And yet, he had no way to rub his head to get the headache to dissipate, yeah. He growled. Grr, he's angry. Maybe it was because he had chosen only recently to come back. He had perhaps waited too long to come back. Maybe that's why Kirby had initially forgotten him. That's what the word says. I'm silly. Anyways, it didn't help that personality-wise. He had very much changed from the shy jokester of past. Okay. He found himself rebirthed from the ashes of Nova. Some of the more unpleasant bits of himself had been extremified. To put it lightly, he had become more self-centered, more egotistical, and perhaps even more insane. He was already a bit nuts when Kirby and he had met up for the first time, and he had done his best to suppress that feeling. Also, the best to suppress the loud outside world, because, my town must be loud, but both then and now. But it was never enough. He had been, let's just say, mistreated growing up, and his most cruel plan for vengeance had been formed in the back of his mind once, and he and Kirby had, at last. Wait, hold on. What are you talking about? Kirby and Marx both had a freaking bad past. I mean, Kirby's still a child, but it must be hard on him. But reached their destination, the Nova Comet. Oh, okay. It was here that his best self-regulation mechanisms failed him. Where he had failed, his deepest, darkest, most sadistic desires reigned supreme as he made his wish. Not to control Popstar, he had said. Marx didn't even recognize that the voice was his. The voice now speaks for him in the back of his mind, saying terrible, terrible things. Kirby hates us. Why are you gonna accept that? We're dead. Look at them all. Look at the Look at all these weaklings, such shame. We couldn't reign over them. Oh, imagine the pain we could inflict on them, just like they've done to you. Shut! He would always shout back if someone else were in the room. They would be self-abused. Mark sighed. It was fine. Everything was fine now. Kirby had finally forgiven him, right? He had never flat out said that he accepted his apology before, so it had to mean something, didn't it? My lord, this is a very long book. He looked down the drowned out puffball. He smiled. Kirby looked so calm, so sweet, so vulnerable. Okay, man. He shook his head quickly before looking around. There was nothing, no one here to terrorize them. They were completely isolated, alone, trapped together, with little chance of anybody else finding them. A perfect opportunity. His grin widened. Perfect opportunity what? Like, murder him? Soon, Kirby, soon you will be mine, he whispered. No, please. The book was like kind of decent. It's just, no, don't. As if on cue, Kirby began to stir. Marx hushed himself, and changed his tone of that of a more somber, more comforting voice, clearing his throat in the process. Boy, Kirby moaned. Why is he moaning that, man? You could just murmured it. Hello, Kirby, the jester murmured to the rested Star Warrior. Did you sleep well? Kirby nodded his head, then groaned as he stretched himself. As he prepared to stand up, before standing, though, he looked back at Marx, who had been comforting him during his slumber. His eyes, his smile, and everything just seemed blissful. Everything seemed right. He laid himself down again, staring up at his friend. He put on a weak smile. Aren't you gonna get up? Marx asked. Nah, said Kirby. I could stay here for days. Okay, Kirby. This sort of thing, it only can happen in a dream, couldn't it? Surely this was a dream. He and Marx himself snuggled into such a comfortable position, and two of them being so close together, Marx surely would have called it out as being awkward by now, right? If not that, then he would have certainly felt awkward himself and shifted away to prevent any further embarrassment. If this wasn't a dream, I have to be specific about that. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. For what, man? If it was, he wasn't going to be waking up anytime soon. He was going to get as much value out of this as he possibly could. What are you talking about, man? Oh, Marx spoke softly. He spoke softly, trying to make the words that came out sound cute, extra cute. Yes, Kirby. You know, I felt terrible having, It's okay, Marx said. I understand that I've done a lot wrong. It must have been so hard for you, right, boy? The puffball sighed. It was so poyo, but that's not what I'm getting at. He bit his lip. He bit his lip, okay. And started to rub his face. Why was it getting so warm all of a sudden? There's probably a heater. The room was getting deathly cold before, wasn't it? Why was it so hard just to talk? Well, it's because Kirby can't talk. Kirby, you're blushing. Here we go. Marx pointed out, part light-hearted and part mockingly. Alright. Kirby soon blinked, then became an even deeper shade of red and pink. He just wanted to, he couldn't even think straight. He had never felt more embarrassed or ashamed in his life. Marx playfully decided to toy around with Kirby's strange cesspool of emotion. He leaned in close to the point where their eyes were nearly touching each other. You're stopped that. You're gonna fall in love with each other. Kirby's were starting to tear up. And he gasped, "Is there something you want to tell me, Kirby?" He made sure to speak faintly, nearly as faintly as when he was crying his eyes out, when he believed that the puffball had abandoned him. Poyo. Kirby moaned, his own made-up language from his youth mixing with that of the unspoken words of pleasure. Marx. Oh, okay, man. "Do you like me, Kirby?" the jester teased. "Yes." Kirby didn't know whether it meant as in they were friends, or "Do you like me more than as a friend, Kirby?" Marx's question hit like a bullseye. Kirby squirmed, struggling to let the right words out whilst trying to save himself from further embarrassment. And Marx loved every second of it. He decided, after some thinking, to let some information of his own slip, knowing it will further intensify Star Warrior's internal emotion struggle. Wow, Marx, you're a real jerkhead. But he began tilting his head sideways rather than straight down as before. He raised the tips of his own shoes and lowered his head, encapsulating the puffball entirely. "I always had some interest in you." You're going to jail again, Marx. I mean, I don't even know how you got out first time, but you did? Kirby panned. "Why, yes, of course." He pressed the side of his face up against Kirby's cheek. "It was hot to the touch. I never said anything about because, well," he turned again, facing the sweating puffball once more. "I didn't know how you'd think of it. Would you have accepted it, or would it have been awkward?" Kirby was breathless. So was I, because the story was decent, and now it just turned to terribleness, man. He was taking many short breaths, yet could not acquaintedly replenish his oxygen supply. His eyes were already leaking and inching. If he didn't act soon, he'd surely faint. "Come on, just do it already, you cowardly fool." Marx then purred. He purred on Kirby's cheek. "Ah, yeah, he's back. He's back at it again." It was frankly perhaps a bit too ridiculous on his part, but like all actions preceding it, it had achieved its desired effect. Marx was looking forward to the release almost to the same extent as Kirby desperately was. "Do you love anyone, Kirby?" the purple jester asked. He then spoke even quieter than before, feeling one of Kirby's salty tears run down his face, closing his eye as he said, "Do you love me, Kirby?" Please stop, Marx. He's a child, you're not. But not even a second later, Kirby had closed the gap between their lips without even a flinch. It was better than Marx had ever expecting, his own body heating up as what felt like fireworks exploded in his mind while their tongues played around with each other. Done with this goddamn story, man. I'm getting sick and tired of Marx for a bit.
I can't believe this!
Kirby was sloppy, but so was he. Neither had ever kissed anyone before, as neither really had much of a romantic relationship before, even though Kirby's a child and Marx isn't, and he's basically going to jail again, but it was still perfect harmony in every way. It's not perfect at all, it's freaking the opposite of that. In the meantime, Kirby's being melted before his best friend, tears of joy streaking down his face without restriction, his intense blush not fading away, his immense passion in full force. He had admitted until now that the puffball had always had a semblance of a crush on Marx. No, he hasn't. He's always liked food, but he slowly had started to appear in Kirby's dreams more and more since the day they first met. Initially, as little preservations, he kept it to himself before he could dream of little else regarding his best friend until when? It doesn't matter. His deepest desires were at last being realized. Not only had Marx returned to his life, but now here they were kissing like lovers, even though Marx isn't a child and he's an adult and he's making out with a kid. But why did he only admit these feelings now instead of then? What was he thinking? What was the creator of this story thinking to state this way, or orally interlocked with one another? Can you please stop for minutes on end, only breaking to take the occasional deep breath, Mark sometimes gasping with Kirby. Oh, stop, man! For continuing, when at last they finished this display of pure unbridled love, more like cancer, but they separate slowly, reluctantly. Neither wanted to list to end. Kirby, yeah, I think everyone wanted it to end, but again found himself thoroughly exhausted from the experience. Marx was not as tired as but was still visibly shaken from what had happened. Both were panting. Marx, Kirby sighed. Did you? I already told you, Marx. Kirby, whoops, Marx murmured. I'd die for you and only you. With that statement, Kirby froze before fainting, collapsing again to the ground. Okay, maybe Marx had gone a little too far with his teasing, so maybe he went a little bit far with kissing a child again. But but that experience, that moment of raw bondage between the two of them, oh, he could kill to experience such a thing again. Yep, he's also going to experience some time in prison too. Everything inside him was desperately screaming for Kirby, that he'd wake up and continue that amazing kiss. Ah, well. Jesus, when Kirby wakes up, they'll have more pertinent things to deal with. Yeah, like escaping, like they were trying to do before deciding to go back in the room they were locked in at the beginning of the story that they broke out of. But now that they had jumped off one of the extremes, it was time to get back on track, or on the track at all. That is, they were still in square one. No progress in escaping, even though they'd been there for like the weeks, but that didn't matter, not now. Now all that mattered was Kirby. Soft, cute Kirby. Marx fell asleep as I start to call the cops again. Yeah, we're using these jokes, man. We're using them. I don't care. Kirby didn't know how much time has elapsed since he had passed out. He didn't care how much time had elapsed since he had passed out. Okay. He was already feeling breathless. That last dream, it was a culmination of of his deepest fantasies. He and Marx had kissed passionately, not stopping until all of their strength had been drained. He hadn't had a dream so vivid, so real, and for so long, for a time, jeez. But every small movement, every minuscule action, every tear or ball of sweat, and every emotion that at that given time, every given moment, and that in time, geez, I cannot read. Within that dream felt real, to the point of potentially even being scary. Kirby blushed. Of course he did. He had such a perverted mind. He does not have a perverted mind, but because he's a freaking child still. But having grown up alongside two children for much of his life, even though he's still growing up, he's a child, but he's never going to age because it's Kirby. But he had experienced too much what they've experienced as the years wore on and their interests changed. He specifically remembered a moment where Theodore Kirby almost forgot that he thought that name. Okay, despite its sophisticated, oh my lord, these freaking big words, etymology, and high-profile satire. Okay, man. I mean, this book's just like so many big words in it. Made the boy sound cool. He's already cool, man. What are you talking about? All those musicians with those catchy single names. He'd say, would any of them really want to call themselves tough or fun? More like bum, if you ask me. Ha 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 ha! Tiff would roll her eyes in annoyance while Kirby would laugh at how ridiculous he was, yet still approve nothing nonetheless. And Marx would, wait, Marx? He still could be turned around in a swift, deft maneuver. A sense of panic overcoming him. He was awake, standing next to the door, leaning up against it. Took you long enough to get up, he said. Heh. Kirby chuckled lightly to himself. He was so very much time. Definition of a deep sleeper. So, are we good about,
No.